You're listening to The Stall and Stable Show, ideas for happy horsekeeping.
In this episode, we're talking simplicity and how it can help you streamline your barn work and your business. There are several ways to simplify your workflow. Today, we're going to discuss a few key strategies that will help you streamline and free up energy by removing blocking entities. Joining me as co-host once again is Buck Harris, a small business champion in his industry. Buck works with entrepreneurs of all kinds, and we often work together to help business owners figure out where they're stuck. Plus, we welcome Sara Zwolenick, developer of the Barn Book, a genius product in its powerful simplicity. We're going to find out how we can leverage that to create a more efficient barn office. So listen in. This is episode 122 of the Stall and Stable Show, brought to you by American Stalls. American Stalls provides farm owners with hundreds of choices of premium quality stall components and accessories. From European stall fronts to paddock gates and custom doors and windows, everything they make is of the highest quality. In a world full of unpredictability, having a home for your horses that is predictably safe and comfortable means having a home outfitted by American Stalls. To learn more, visit them at americanstalls.com. Welcome back, listeners. Today is Wednesday, July 19th, 2023. I'm your host, Helena Harris. The Stall and Stable Show is made possible by our terrific sponsor, American Stalls, and by listeners like you. A free way to support our show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's a chance to tell us what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it too. You can easily leave a rating and review by scrolling down on our Apple Podcast page, select a star rating, and then tapping Write a Review. Stall and Stable is a small business in the equine industry, and you guys know how tough that is. We'd really appreciate your support. We're talking efficiency today, and while the focus will be somewhat on small business, everything that we talk about applies to private farm owners as well. When you're running a barn, nobody has time to waste. So anything that we talk about is about being efficient. And so I'm welcoming back my husband, Buck Harris, who is a small business champion in the lending industry. He works with the U.S. Small Business Administration, offering loans to small businesses in the New England area. So Buck and I are going to talk about some of the more common things that small business owners get tripped up on, whether they're starting up or just trying to stay alive, or whether you're doing well and you want to grow. So we're going to welcome Buck to the show, and we're going to talk about how to clear up some of those things that get us stuck in our businesses and in our barns. And then we're going to talk to Sara Zwolenick, creator of the Barn Book, a very simple new product that I am in love with. We're going to hear about how she developed it, why she developed it, and where you can get it. Let's start with Mr. Harris. Hi, Buck, and welcome back to Stall and Stable.
It's my favorite place to be. I love the stall and I love the stable.
Well, you're starting to get fan mail now.
Apparently, I have a nice voice, which I never knew.
Yeah, so, you do. That's why I married you. I married you for your voice.
Geez, I don't know. There could be a future in this for me. When I can't get around anymore, I'll just sit and talk. I'll be a talking head.
Well, if you're interested, let me know. I know the boss. I can hook you up and get you an interview with her.
I'm in. I'll love it. Love it.
We're going to talk about one of your favorite things today, and that's business, because that is what you do. And the theme of the show is how to simplify, how to streamline, and how to do that, or how to do those things by either saving energy or making energy. And that is, I know, one of your favorite things to talk about.
I'm an energy maker, not an energy taker.
And I'm going to start with a very quick anecdote. When I first met Buck, one of the things I noticed about him was that he would do the dishes at night, no matter what time. So after dinner, after cocktails, after dessert, he would clean up the dishes in the sink. And I would look at the dishes in the sink and go, oh, I can't. I do not have the energy to do these dishes right now. I'll do them first thing in the morning. And I would say to him, how do you like muster the energy to do it? And he said, yeah, it's tough and it's squeaking out energy at the end of the day when you think you have none left, but it actually ends up making energy in the morning when I come downstairs and I have a pot of coffee ready and there's nothing for me to do in the kitchen except enjoy my coffee. And that is the way I want to start my day. So the energy output tonight is actually creating energy for tomorrow morning. And that, listeners, completely changed so much of how I look at energy expenditure.
There's always more to get done than you can get done. I think that's a blanket statement. Everybody on the planet who's got an ounce of ambition. And if I could ask everyone to just take a second and raise your hand if you got into the horse business because you love horses or because you love to manage stuff, right? The person who loves to manage stuff doesn't say, I'm really good at managing. I think I'll start a horse business, right? It's the person who loves horses who probably maybe never managed anything in their life, and yet we kind of expect that this management thing is just going to happen. And so we end up losing energy all over the place, energy leaks everywhere, entities in all the corners draining more energy, and 2, 3, 4 years down the line, you're banging up against the wall and you're not making money and you don't know why.
Let's talk about entities, because it sounds woo-woo, but it's really not. You use the word entities. I don't know, where were we when you said there's entities everywhere? And at Who To?
Yes.
When we bought Who To, the place was supposed to be turned over in broom clean condition. Broom clean is definitely not what I would have called it. And so the first thing that you and I did when we got into the cottage at Who To was get cleaning supplies and brooms and vacuums and bleach and all that kind of stuff. And we cleaned. And you said to me, there are entities here that we need to clear out.
Well, if anyone doesn't really get that concept, just take something that's dirty and then clean it. And then look at it and go, wow, there were entities in there. You can't feel them when they're not there. They're not going to be replaced by something, right? They're just replaced by energy. And when there's dirt, the dirt traps the energy, and then that becomes harder for you to do what you need to do to have a good day. It just boils down to that. I mean, if we all had an immaculate situation on our hands, we would all have a lot more energy to spend doing other things. But it begs the question, if you're managing a barn with 20 horses in it, you're probably laughing at me right now saying, well, that's impossible. But it's not impossible. And there are ways to manage energy so that you reduce the amount of entities in your barn, reduce the amount of entities in your office, the amount of entities in your inbox, the amount of entities in everything. And so being organized and creating a rhythm. I mean, again, raise your hand if you feel like you work in an anti-rhythm. You're always up against everything that's happening around you. You feel like you get no cooperation. You feel like everyone's undoing things that you're doing. That just means that you're working in an anti-rhythm. And when you start to work in a rhythm, then things start to happen a lot more naturally, and you have more time to spend doing the things you love, which is probably riding a horse.
So I want to talk quickly about the word rhythm, because rhythm implies movement, and energy is movement. At its very core, energy is movement. So if you think about the wind, you can't see it, and oftentimes you can't smell it, you can't really touch it, but you know it's there. It's movement. And entities and energy, so if you are a forest or a stand of trees, would be considered entities that stand in the way of the movement of wind. So as wind comes along, it hits the trees block that movement. So what we're going to do is look around and see what entities are blocking the movement of energy in our barns and our business. Some entities in a barn that would block your energy would be a dirty aisleway, too many tack trunks in the aisleway, stalls that don't have airflow or grills where horses can see each other, where literally air can move. Blocking entities would be not having a structured place for your customers to park, and cars are all over the place. Anything that is out of place Anything that is unnecessary, clutter, chaos, dirt, dust, those are entities that block the movement of energy. And this is energy that you need to not only run your business, but to ride and train your horses.
One of the words that Helena and I have been kicking around lately is discipline. And she doesn't like the word discipline. I liked the word discipline. And then we looked it up in the dictionary and it was all about like this punitive. And I was like, oh, no, I don't like discipline anymore either. And so we were trying to come up with a word like maybe structure. But I think structure is important, but a rhythm within that structure is what's important. But the real challenge is, so, okay, in the morning, let's say you have 2 horses in your backyard. You get up in the morning and you have a rhythm for what you're going to do. Your hay nets are, maybe they're filled, maybe they're not. Hay nets aren't filled in the morning. You have to fill them and then put them out. You've wasted some precious time and now you're already in an anti-rhythm before you've even started your day. And now you put that on a grander scale where you have a 20-stall horse barn and you have 3 people working for you. The principle is exactly the same. And how do you help your barn help create positive rhythms instead of everyone working against each other and in a negative rhythm? And I think that's where good communication, constant communication, regular meetings, right? That's energy movement. Communication is moving energy. Most people who run small businesses that are not successful, and I had my own business for a long time and I had to learn this the hard way, don't communicate with their help. They just expect. Expect, and then the negativity starts, and then the trees come up and they'll block all the wind, and there's no more good energy in your barn. And how do you begin to develop a positive rhythm within a structure where people feel motivated to work?
I will add one more thing that can be an entity that blocks energy: negative emotion.
Absolutely.
Right. So when your barn staff doesn't get the kind of communication that they need in order to do their jobs and do their jobs well, you will harbor or you will foster resentment and negative emotion. And that in itself can also be a very powerful entity blockage. You deal with small business owners all the time. Typically, they are preparing to get financing from your company in some form. It could be a $5,000 loan. It could be a $5 million loan. And one of the things that I know is necessary to move forward in that process is that they have to be organized. And that can be really hard when you're a sole proprietor or you're a small business and you're wearing many hats. That just like chaos and disorganization just kind of comes with the territory when you're a small business owner. Talk to me about how organization can free up energy or even make energy.
There's a direct correlation between people who are organized and people who are successful. And there's a direct correlation between people who are disorganized and people who are unsuccessful. And put a needle in my eye, you'll never get me to say otherwise. I can tell you within the first 15 minutes of a conversation with someone, I've been doing this 15 years and I bring my own 15-year experience running a business and being around entrepreneurs all my life. I can tell you in 15 minutes of a conversation whether or not a person's running a successful business or not. I can pretty much tell you what their credit score is. I mean, I can tell by the tone of a person's energy when they get on the phone with me. And people who are organized have lots of free energy and they're enthusiastic. They love their jobs. They bring joy to the things that they do and they're a pleasure to work with. And people who are struggling and need loans because they're struggling, do I really want to give that struggling person a loan? Because are they going to be able to pay me back? They're in a more difficult situation and their energy is very clear in their tone around that situation. Even people who've had successive years of, like, let's say business losses, but are looking for money, if the losses are something that were outside of their control, like COVID, they were shut down, or something happened, their spouse died and they lost half of the income and their credit score tanked. The person who is going to recover from that is the person who sticks to their guns around staying organized and positive and creating a healthy rhythm for their life and their endeavor. So it's clear as a bell. So if you're struggling financially and you're also in an anti-rhythm, you've got work to do, but there's hope because you can turn that around.
And turning it around, I think when you turn something around, you're usually revolving around some anchor point. What is that point in your own life and what you tell your clients? Give me something that you find absolutely essential for staying organized, either in business or in your life.
Preparation. So my version of preparation is I probably manage about 20 different files at a time. So I have 20 different people at some place in the lending spectrum. They're either starting out with getting me initial paperwork or we're ready to close their loan and everything in between.
20 businesses. That's a lot.
Right. And each of those businesses will have between 150 and 200 documents in their file by the time their loan closes. So we're talking about thousands and thousands of documents. I could go through my list right now and tell you exactly what each of those business owners owes me so I can move their deal forward. I can tell you where it's stuck. I can tell you what's going to happen. I've been doing it a long time, but I love being organized. I have to be organized. And I make a lot more money because I'm organized. That's organization, money, energy, all those things come together. And it's incumbent upon me to be the organized one so that I can help these people get their loans.
So how do you do that?
Every night before I turn off my computer and end my day, actually I usually do it after I turn off my computer, I get out a thing, it's called a pen and a pad. A pad is a thing that has stacked up paper on it that you can tear those papers off, right? I don't work on a computer for this. And I manually write down each of my businesses that I'm working with and what I need to do for that business tomorrow. If I'm waiting for them, there's a note of what I'm waiting for. If I need to get something that I need to get to them or send somewhere else, there's a note. So then my mind is free. I'm not getting blindsided by, oh, I forgot to do this. Oh, I forgot to do that. Oh, I didn't do this. And all the process is nailed down too, so I know exactly where everybody's at in the process. Now, again, this sounds a little freaky probably to people that are listening, but this is 15 years of experience in trying to make my life better and earn more money to support my family and have more free time.
Why do you think it helps to write it down?
It clarifies in your mind. It gives your mind space. If I only had 4 companies I was working with and I didn't write it down, I would have so much head clutter. I couldn't function, right? I wouldn't know. I'd have to go back into each deal and go through the paperwork and figure out where I'm at and then go to the next one and then figure out where I'm at. And everything would take a lot longer and a lot more projects would get done and a lot less projects would get done and a lot less people would be helped. My goal is to help people. So I think that the important component of writing it down is when you wake up in the morning, you're prepared. You know exactly what the day is going to look like. And guess what? It never looks like what you think it's going to look like. So if you've got it written down, you have a base to work from. And that's really the essential part of the preparation for me.
And you start your day off in a rhythm so that by the end of the day, you have not lost energy. You can actually create even more energy. So through that preparation and a successful day, moving through your day successfully actually creates more energy, which then carries over to the next day. By the end of the day, you have enough energy to do your dishes and wipe the counters.
Yeah. And the people who work for you feel that. They want that. They're motivated by that. They're inspired by that. And there's always a tough conversation. Know this, every day, Helena calls it eating the frog. Every day you've got to eat at least one frog. If you don't make energy, you don't have the energy to eat that frog. Tomorrow you got 2 frogs to eat.
Ooh.
The next day you have 3 frogs to eat. Nobody's eating 3 frogs in a day. Maybe you eat one of them, but now you're always living with 3 frogs that need to be eaten and you're sick all the time because you can't do it. So when you make energy, you've got the energy to deal with the tough conversation you've got to have with the trainer that's not paying you for her time on your property, with the boarder who is not paying their board, with your employee who just needs some coaching and counseling and some time. You've also got time to actually hang out with people and, buy them a beer, buy them a Pepsi, sit down and actually hear what's going on. you have the emotional capacity to listen to where your employees are frustrated. And then you have the emotional means and the financial means to solve those problems for them. You know, how many times does someone have to deal with a broken latch? You're walking around with your head in the air going, la, la, isn't it a great day? Why is everybody in a bad mood? Because every day they deal with the same broken latch or the door that won't open or all these things that are going on that you can't get caught up on. So the idea of preparation the day before, what jobs am I going to tackle tomorrow, and then stick to it, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It starts to build and build and build.
Duly noted. All right. And now there are at least a dozen other tips for streamlining and making energy that Buck and I can talk about. So listeners, if this resonates with you and you want to hear more about ways in which you can streamline your business and make energy, let us know. Send us an email. You can reach me at helena@stallandstable.com. Tell us whether or not this is helpful for you and if you want more. And if you do want more of it, then we'll bring Buck back for more conversations like this. My next guest is Sara Zwolenick. She's the creator of The Barn Book, my new favorite tool for making energy, streamlining workflow, and creating organization in any barn. So let's welcome Sara to the show and find out how she got the idea for The Barn Book and how it might help you. Hi, Sara, and welcome to Stall and Stable.
Hi, nice to meet you. It's good to be here.
I found your product by scrolling on Facebook, which I have a hard time doing these days because there's a lot of junk out there. But every once in a while, and you never know what little gem you're going to find. And I think I was on Jenny Brannigan's page, and she happened to mention that she loved this organizer. And there it was. And I said, well, all right, who's pushing paper products these days? Well, what everybody's got an app. So this is very different. Tell our listeners what your product is and what its purpose is.
Sure. So it is called The Barn Book, and it's a 6-month blank fillable calendar, sort of an all-in-one, one-stop shop for like organizing your barn. So when you open it up, it gives you that full like 2-page month view to fill in however you want to plan your month. And then each month has 31 pages. When you open them up, one side is sort of your daily tasks. If a farrier's coming, if a horse needs to go to the vet, if you have a lesson, if, whatever sort of daily things that are going on. And then the other side gives you a full page where you can write what your horse's work is, or if you have lessons or whatever. So you can see both sides of your day. It's sort of like your barn's main organizer where you can just write everything down. And what I like to use it for is I do a lot of billing and invoicing for my clients. So at the end of the month, you have it all there. And so you can just go through and see where the horses went, when they were shot, if you had any questions about a horse when they left or they came back, it's all there.
What I like about it is that you have a panoramic view of your day or your month. A lot of apps don't have that because you're on your phone. So it would be looking at a micro version of your day, but you can't, I like to see, I'm looking at today, but today doesn't exist in a vacuum. There are things that are happening 2, 3, 5, 10 days down the line. So I really like the fact that you can take 2 pages of a book and be able to get that bigger picture view of what your week and month is going to look like. What made you decide to go with paper versus a digital product?
I have played around with many of those apps over the last few years, and maybe for like a smaller barn or for somebody that's more singular, it works. But I found on a large scale, a lot of my clients have larger barns. It was too much. It just seemed too complicated.
Right?
And it just was like inputting all the input, and then you have to share it to all these people. And I found it too complicated. And for me, if you have one thing that everyone has access to, they can quickly write something down. I just find that's more user friendly than you pulling out your phone and trying to type stuff in. I just feel like it takes longer and it's less efficient.
I'm with you. And I'm a digital person. I think everything should be digitized except where it's not efficient. With phones and tablets, with phones in particular, they serve so many purposes. They end up in your pocket, they end up in your jacket, they end up on your tack trunk, they end up in all different places. And so I'm constantly looking for my phone. If it's on my body, then I'm the only one who has access to that. And so, yes, inputting this data into a place where everybody can share it, it requires your undivided attention. And when you work in a barn, it's very rare that you have undivided attention. But a book can sit on a desk in your office or in the tack room, and there it stays pretty much. It's like a whiteboard. You can go back to it and refer to it at any point. But also the act of writing something down helps to retain it in your own memory. They've proven this in studies and learning theory. So I'm less likely to forget something if I actually write it down, even if that piece of paper doesn't go anywhere. So I do appreciate that you're making this easy. At what point did you say to yourself, I think I want to turn this into a saleable product. I think this can help other people.
It was probably about a year and a half ago. I started working on it, just writing stuff in like notebooks, like just some ideas. And then I went in Word and I tried, and I sort of then was piecing all the pages together. And I played with it on and off for about a year. And then I would send it to some friends who are very well respected in the horse community. And I said, what do you think? And I got really great feedback. And so after I sent it to a few people, I found a graphic designer to make it look nice and sent it out again. And I would tweak things as people gave me some suggestions. And then finding a printer was the hardest part. So that took me about, 3 or 4 months of going locally. I live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, so sort of searching some local places. And then I actually just stumbled across this company in Canada, a small company, and they were great to work with. And I think from start to finish to get them done took about 4 months.
Not too bad in the overall scheme of things, although 4 months can feel like 40 when, when you've been developing a product for a while.
Right.
What do you do as your other job when you're not designing tools to help people be more efficient?
I have my own business that I started probably about 15 years ago, where I help mainly high-level riders with their billing and their entries, travel, anything that has to do with, registering horses, passport, some stuff for the federation, whatever they need, Olympic applications, anything and everything that a rider needs 24/7 that they don't want to deal with. Riders like to focus on their riding. And if I can take that burden, the office work burden off of them, that's my job.
Great. And God, do they need it? Actually, what you do is kind of a complement to what we do at Stall & Stable. We work on the business side, strategy, modeling, tools, operational efficiencies, and you're actually getting in there with your hands, the documentation and other types of the minutia that doesn't happen in the saddle, but that happens everywhere else. Because when a rider is focusing on that kind of minutia, they're leaking energy. Today's the end of the day, we're talking about energy. They're leaking energy into something that may be necessary, but it is not going to give them a return on their investment when it comes to their ultimate goals, which is training and competing. When you provide a service that's as essential as the one that you provide, your clients come to rely very heavily on you. They trust you. I mean, reliability, trustworthiness, discretion, those are the cornerstones of what make you successful in what you do. When the rest of the world is saying, let's go digital, and you're saying, let's simplify and go back to this more traditional method, did you run into any resistance as you were building that product?
I have not, no. Not from anyone that I've heard from. I mean, I'm still relatively new with my book, so I'm just sort of still branching out and trying to get it out to everyone. But at the moment, no, I haven't. So I've gotten a lot of people that tell me they would rather write something down.
What I have found is not people who are resistant to change or who are not digital users, but there's almost like, it's kind of like riding. There's an intuitiveness about what's going to work for you. And if you know that jotting something down in a book is going to be better for you, then they have that option. It's when something stops working for you, when something becomes too cumbersome to be helpful, that you have to think about change.
Exactly.
So it's a $50 book. What comes inside the book? It's not just 1 month worth of tracking.
So it's 6 months and it's blank. So if you got it in May, you can use it for 6 months. You don't have to buy it in January to get the whole 6 months. You can buy it whenever, start using it the day you get it, and use the entire book. There's no waste. And yeah, and it's just very simple, as well as the 30 days of the daily sheet and the training log. About once a week, I put a show plan sheet in there. So like you can plan for your weekend if you're showing. So I have that in there. And then at the end, I just have some blank lined paper for general note taking and a little pocket folder in the back. But I do also offer on my website a digital version. So in that way, if you are more digital, you can upload it to like an iPad or your phone through like GoodNote and use like an Apple Pencil. Or you can print, let's say you just want a 1 month of log pages, you can print, for $24, you get that forever. And you can put it in a 3-ring binder. So I also have some people that use it that way too.
For $100 a year, you've got your organizational tool. It's just all encompassing.
Yeah.
Some of the digital apps force you to use terms or labeling that they've included in their drop down. Here you have the freedom to use whatever labels work for you and your business. So again, I like that. It's instantly customizable. You don't have to pay extra or upgrade to have the custom version. You basically customize it as you see fit. So for $50 for a 6-month logbook, for $100 a year, you're organized. And what I recommend to my clients is keep track of the services that you're putting out, maybe any expenses or special events, and then you're going to translate those into your financials at the end of every month. Right. Some folks go right to an accountant, but I think that it's important for business owners to just eyeball their spreadsheets once a month. And I think taking the information in a logbook like this makes it so much easier to then put your data into a spreadsheet and you're done. 15 minutes a month and you're done.
Right.
How long has this been out?
In December, I got my first advance shipment and I gifted all my clients a copy. So I sent all those out and I did sort of early bird sale, and the first, 50 people got books. I sent those out. And then since then, I've just been, just trying to share it on social media as much as I can. And Jenny is actually one of my clients, so she nicely promoted it for me. And it's been advertised on the USCA. I'm just trying to still sort of spread it out. I generally work for eventing clients, so getting it to a hunter jumper or a broodmare farm or a dressage farm, I've been trying to just sort of get some more outreach into different disciplines.
Well, we're going to help you spread the word because any tool that creates efficiency, because what are the two things, and you'll know this firsthand, what are the two things that horse professionals are always behind on or they don't have enough of?
Yeah, funds. Funds is probably one.
Time and money.
Yeah.
Time and money. And time is money in our business, right? So if we can save time, then we are saving money. And we all want to see a net profit at the end of that, on that bottom line. Right. And I see a lot of products. I get a lot of emails. Can we be on your show? I have this great new product. And very rarely does something hit me different, or I see so much value in this, mostly because of the simplicity.
Yeah.
Right. Our days are complicated enough.
Right.
The simplicity.
And I also wanted to make it so it did suit anybody. If you had just a lesson barn, or if you had, a boarding barn, or any sort of equestrian operation, it would suit whoever used it. And not only keeping track of just like for billing purposes, but these days with, medications and certain things that are important to know for your horse. That's also, you can put it in your monthly calendar, with FEI and the tracking of temperatures and all sorts of things. You have it all there. So there's nothing gets missed, nothing gets messed up, and you don't lose out in a competition because you accidentally horse got something when it shouldn't have, etc.
What would you recommend as a writing utensil? Pen, pencil, colored pencils, markers? What do you, what do you suggest?
I love a good gel pen.
I always say use pencil because life changes.
Oh yeah, I'm not a pencil person, but you can always use pencil.
But it can take whatever. You can use whatever. It's not like it's going to bleed through and.
No, I made sure the paper was very good. It has no bleed through.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be hardy. I think I'm about ready to buy my third Pivo because for a camera that's supposed to be set up for a horse environment, these things keep breaking every time a tail swishes by one. And, that's something that horse people have to consider is this small thing, whatever it is it durable in a barn? Can it handle dust? Can it handle humidity? Can it handle getting dropped and thrown across the aisleway? So you're saying that it's pretty hardy.
Yes. It has a great outside cover. It has a hardy spiral bound, and the tabs are easy to write on. They don't come off. If they get wet, your months won't fade away.
Sara, thank you very much for coming on and sharing the birth of this great thing. Do you have anything else that's in development, maybe?
I don't. I have thought about maybe doing a smaller version, more like a show plan book where you would throw it in your truck with you. Because the barn book is hefty. And I thought, well, maybe I'll do like a smaller version that you could have in your truck when you go away, et cetera, but I haven't done that yet.
Right. We're busy. When you wear many hats, you're like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Well, you never know if that's overkill.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm glad that you thought of this and that you are bringing it to the marketplace. I'm happy to help spread the word about it. And again, listeners will post links at stallandstable.com. Sara, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, I hope this discussion with Sara inspired you to simplify and get organized. Since Sara and I recorded our conversation, I have fallen so in love with the barn book that I decided to sell it on Stall and Stable. If it's something that you want to try, go to stallandstable.com, click on the business products link, and you'll find the barn book in that category. Stall and Stable listeners get a special discount. If you enter code SSL10, you can enjoy 10% off your first purchase of the barn book. Thank you once again to our sponsor, American Stalls. You can find them online at americanstalls.com. And that's going to be a wrap for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it.